get into it because we only have 30 minutes. If you weren't on the last call, my name is Samantha. I'm a group coach for Ops Boss Coaching, and I'm also the director of client care for the Lucas Howard Group up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Christy, I don't know if you want to give a little spiel about Ops Boss Coaching for maybe some that weren't on the first call.
I think we probably know most people here. Welcome.
Okay.
We're glad to have you, whether you are an Ops Boss coaching client or just part of the Ops Boss community. Super happy to have you. We are all in this boat together. Those of you who are on the call with us last week, I shared with you how excited I am. We are calling this an opportunity market, not a shifting market. Those of us who have been through it before, and I see some faces in the room. I'm not the only one who's been through lots of shifts. So for me, 25, 30 plus years in real estate and 10 years in the mortgage business, I've seen a lot. And each time we gained market share. So let's just dive into the book. And thank you, Sam, so much. And Kelly and Elizabeth, I think, are here too, our other group coaches, for leading our book club. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. So last week we started out learning about what the shift is, and we talked about getting our minds right for the shift. So that's step number one, is to get your mind right. The real estate market shifts all the time, and it's very cyclical, which is what we're seeing now. This has happened in the past, and it will happen again in the future. Sometimes you'll shift in response to a failing market, and other times you'll shift to take your business to the next level. It's all about changing your thinking, your focus, your actions, and your results to get back in the game and ahead of your competition. The tactics that jumpstart your business in tough times will power it forward in good ones. As operations, we have to always be thinking about solutions and ways to help our agents or team stay ahead of the game and make it through those difficult times. So last week we talked about mindset, and we talked a little bit about what we are going to implement to make sure that our team is ready for this shift. I would love to hear what everyone has been doing to try and help get their team ready for that. I know we talked about Power Up. That's one thing that I've been making sure I go to is Power Up, making sure people are positive, and I'm sharing my goals and wins, really focusing on celebrating wins. I would love to hear what other people have been doing to try to help the team morale. You can either put it in the chat or you can come off mute.
I can start us. So we've been really big about how do we celebrate? How do we focus on things to celebrate, short-term wins? Because I think oftentimes we're just push, 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 right? And don't stop and celebrate those victories, whether it's it can be for agents, but for ops teams, it's one of the things I start our meeting with is what are our victories or celebrations for today?
Awesome. Would anyone else like to share how they've been helping team morale? Or what you've implemented?
Yeah, we've kind of been, we've been having guest speakers. So once a week, we'll bring somebody in outside of our group, because as we know, when the leader speaks all the time, sometimes the messages get lost. Mm-hmm. So when we bring in someone from the outside who has been through the shift before, a lot of our agents are newer since, the big shift in 2008. Mm-hmm. And so that makes it easier, and the message comes through clearer than the leaders of our team who speak normally, regularly, every day.
Yeah. And I think it's really simple to hike up some team morale. I think it's as easy as bringing in an outside speaker, or maybe sharing quotes or motivational speeches, or sharing anything that you see as a small win and a small victory, putting that in Slack or texting that person directly. I think it's just really important during these times to be celebrating the small victories. Lori says office lunch and just chill time, whether it's work focused or just to have some laughs. Yes. That's so important. It's important to keep the motivation high and the mood high. Mackenzie, anytime I hear a negative view on the market or fear around what may happen, I turn it around to them with a positive outlook and remind them that their mindset around the situation is 80% of the solution. I'm keeping the shift as a positive thing, not as a negative. 100%. As what all the authors are saying in this book is we have to remain positive, and we cannot be running from fear. We need to be running towards it.
I think one of the things as leaders that we can do, that I've started doing both with clients and with our team, is to tell people what to expect. When people have something happen that's unexpected, that's when they get scared and they go into the fear side. But if what's happening is just what we tell them is going to happen, and then we tell them how we're going to handle it, then we're preparing them to take action. So that's kind of the script that I've been using. Hey guys, here's what we're going to see. This is what happened in the last shift. We're probably going to see XYZ. Homes are going to take longer to sell. It's going to be harder to get clients to sign, listing agreement, whatever it is. And then here's what our strategy around it is so that we are going to come out on top, and you're projecting that confidence. So I think it's about scripting as leaders.
Sharon says, I heard a great podcast that said, where there's chaos, there's opportunity. Yes. This is interesting. Michelle says we have a bracelet we wear similar to those yellow rubber ones that were popular a couple years ago. And whenever we say a negative comment or doubt, we snap it. That's a psychological thing that's a study I've heard before. How do you think that's working? Lynn says, I'm sending takeaways from the book as daily text to our team. Awesome. All right. So now that we have our minds right, now we're moving on to the next two tactics. So the second tactic is cutting expenses, and that can be a little bit of an uncomfortable topic for a team that has been used to having just a surplus of funds. Now we need to dial it back. So a little bit of a summary from tactic number 2 to get us started is it's time to get uncomfortable. And this is a time all about expense management. We need to cut some expenses if we don't have enough money coming in, but how do we choose what to cut? The most successful people are those who are good at plan B. So we're always working from a position of profitability. What type of expenses should we be cutting? That's a question I want to pose to you. What types do you think we should be cutting? Because there's some we should and some we probably shouldn't. So we should probably differentiate between the two.
We really started to look at what we were doing on our marketing side first, is the first place that we started. So we were looking at all of the ads that we had in like local magazines and things like that, and really saying, what are we really getting from this? And do we even have numbers to even support us continuing to do this? So that was the first place that we started to do that about 2 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say we started a few weeks ago cutting, I don't know what kind of phone systems you guys use, but any cloud-based phone systems where each number costs money, right? Well, if we have 10 extra numbers and not 10 extra team members, we don't need those phone numbers right now, right? Emails, we're old-fashioned still a little bit. We still use Outlook, and Microsoft is super expensive. So those licenses that are like $50 a month or whatever your CRMs, that's a huge one right now. If you guys can share a login or a username, especially like on the admin side, we tried Brivity, that was a hot mess. So we went back to Top Producer. But yeah, I would say definitely it starts at home kind of thing. So things within the office, watch your printing, watch your copies. I mean, those 50 cents a copy add up throughout the month, and it's kind of stressful on the agent. And also, I know this sounds weird, if they don't need a for sale sign, we don't do it. It's $50 to have a sign installed on every listing. And if we know it's going to go like that, just because of price or given the situation, I know it's a marketing tool for us, but it's an expensive one when we can run a KW command ad for $3 versus a $50 for sale sign.
So we're really getting back to the nitty gritty, and we're going through every single charge that we are doing as a business. And we're looking, is that worth it? Do we need it? Can we dial it back? Can we find a cheaper option? Mackenzie says low ROI subscriptions. Yep. Subscriptions, 100%. Memberships, programs we aren't using or getting profit from. There's a ton of ideas in the chat. Marketing. Some marketing, I would say you do want to dial it back, but I do want to touch on what we shouldn't be getting rid of in marketing. And then Christy put a link about ways to cut. So thank you so much for your ideas on ways to cut. I know sometimes people don't know where to start. So I think that's a perfect place to start, is just going and looking what you're spending and what's the ROI on every single little thing. And is that contributing to your business in a big way to show profit? Now what
Can I just jump in, and I just want to remind people, don't forget about the personal side, right?
Yes.
When we make poor decisions, it's because we're not in a strong position. So help everyone on your team be in a position to make good decisions by dialing in their personal expenses. Some people may not be comfortable with that, but some people are. And we have clients who are sitting down with their rainmakers, going through their personal credit card statements and all the things to see whether there are expenses there. And I guarantee you there's stuff that they're not using there, and you can help them if they're willing to accept that help.
It's so funny you say that, because that was one of my notes. Is it seems that we build better financial habits when we're going through a hard time. And I think that ties really well into your personal life first. If you're not the DOO, if you're not the COO, if you're not the rainmaker, sometimes you might not see the financial struggles, but I can guarantee that all of us have struggled at least once with something financially and had to go back and cut some costs. So the same thing's going to apply to your business, same strategy.
So I'm going to jump in too. I've done very many book clubs with this book over the years, especially when it first came out. So my book is full of notes. And one thing that I wrote down is it's about doing business with no money. You don't have to spend money to make money. Spend energy, not money.
Invest energy, not money.
Mm-hmm.
Invest energy instead of spending money.
There you go. We'll recraft that quote.
That was good, Elizabeth. I love you.
And then we'll get into that later too. And we were talking about working smarter and not harder, and living within your means and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
What are some things we don't want to cut? Because remember, even in a shifting market, you want to stand out amongst everyone. And I know I've heard this argument a lot with marketing, is a lot of people dial back their marketing first, but everyone's doing that. So how do you stay ahead of everyone while still cutting? What are some things we do not want to cut?
We never cut professional photos. That was one thing that in the shift, we refused to cut that. We cut everything else basically, but professional photos always sells the house.
I think it's important to look at your ROI, right? Like if you're getting a really high return on your marketing dollars, and Hannah, I think it was you, I don't know if it was in the blog post, but I think you said that like your team ran really lean to begin with. So you looked at where your marketing dollars were going and reinvested some of the lower ROI on the higher ROI items, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah. So not adjusting our budget per se, but just trying to get a better return on the same amount of money. Yeah.
That's a huge piece too, budget restructuring. I know some people lock their budget in for the year, not anticipating we're going to hit a shift mid-year. So how are we going back and restructuring the budget, maybe to put some money that we thought we're going to spend on something else like Kelly said, into a different item that will have a bigger ROI?
We have a massive return on events and either hosting them or tagging onto them. So we've been looking for more like trade sponsorships instead of money sponsorships. We have fleet moving trucks. So they may get donated and then we'll be a sponsor, and then we get to be on site, and it costs us maybe $5 in fuel to get them 3 blocks up the road to be used. So smarter events tagged onto things that the city may already be doing, the very Ben Kenny style of event, kind of making it into our own.
Super smart. Who else is utilizing sponsorships for client events and things like that? That is one of the easiest ways to cut some costs, is get some sponsorships from other people.
We do 4 to 5 different client events each year, and we get sponsors that covers 2/3 to 3/4 of the cost. So we pay an equal amount as all of our sponsors, but we don't pay more.
Love that. Blair says it's not always about keep or cut. You can also, You can also leverage some expenses off to partners like title or mortgage, or replace with more affordable options. Yes. Sponsors are cutting way back too, so you'll have to do a lot of asking. We're in that time where I know some people have called it grafting in the past. Like you're calling a lot of people to get sponsorships. This isn't just calling your typical title company you work with or your typical inspector you work with. It's a little bit harder because everyone's dialing back. Wow, Hannah, we get over 30K in vendor partnerships for marketing. That is amazing. That's mostly made possible because we track what business we are giving them. Then we can ask for more when our usage of them increases. How are you tracking that?
So like if you guys use CT or something similar, we have a spreadsheet. And so over the years, we keep adding like columns. But like home warranty was when we added. So they give us $4,000 per year. Our home warranty partner does. Obviously, our lender partner, we do that with our title company. And now we're looking at are the other things like we have insurance. They've been sponsoring a lot of our client events. And so we were just talking with them the other day about tracking of that since we don't always know who signed up with our preferred insurance person. But what we've done with that is then when our usage, sometimes we don't deliver on our MSAs. We're not really good at directing. And so we started saying, okay, well, let's be intentional about that. And then once we were like, okay, we're a valuable contributor to their business, then we say, okay, well, next year, if we increase by 20%, can you increase your partnership with us by 20%? So that's helped us increase that number every year. And they're good vendors, right? Like we're choosing really healthy, productive vendors for our agents. So it's a value add for the agents as well.
Yeah. And then when you're backing with data, it's easier to make those calls about sponsorships because you're like, here, we helped you this much,
Right.
It as awkward or hard.
Right.
All right. So I want to move on to tactic 3 since we only have 10 minutes left, but does anyone else have any more ahas they'd like to share from tactic number 2?
I think the biggest one we've had is running profit first with it and cutting our expenses, our expense budget by another 10% to take that and put it into a high yield money market savings account for the company, which is a big yup.
Yup. Looks like Christy's putting some notes about that in the chat as well. And this ties perfectly into tactic number 3, which is leverage. So summary from tactic number 3 is basically doing more with less and leveraging as much as you can, working smarter, not harder, getting the most bang for your buck. So instead of me kind of leading this on, who would like to share their aha since we only have 10 minutes? There's so much in this tactic number 3. We could talk about this for probably an entire call. For me, what I focused on a lot was top grading. If you have to dial back and you have to let some people go who are not on all hands on deck, like mentioned in this, you want to know who your talent is and who your, what do they call it? Capacity talent is. How are we figuring out who our capacity talent is? Has anyone ever done a capacity?
I'd hazard a guess that if I just ask you to evaluate your staff capacity, cul-de-sac, or not talent, you probably already know. Right? You know who the people are.
Right. Has anyone ever done a capacity audit? Or do they know what that is? Does anyone know what that is?
I think if you look in some of the Facebook groups, Sarah Reynolds shared hers that they did on their team a year or 2 ago. It was really good.
Yeah, a capacity audit is just basically seeing how people use their time and if they are at max capacity or if they're not, to see if you can push them a little bit more, if you can get more out of them. So again, more bang for your buck.
So I haven't done it in the real estate so far, but I was in the military. I was a non-commissioned officer in the military, and we do the same type of thing where evaluating if people have growth or if they're just stuck saying and wanting to be in the same sort of level and not wanting any growth. So I'm familiar with that kind of evaluation. And so it's really easy to apply it in the same sort of situation in real estate. So
to you.
You know, when you think about your teams and there's always the person or the people on the team that are the busiest people, but when you need something done, that's who you go to because they'll get it done. That is your capacity talent person versus the cul-de-sac talent is still talent and does their job well. And in a normal market, that's awesome. But we need more than that in the market that we're in now.
Right. It says more staff does not equate to more productivity. The phenomenal few can outperform, outproduce, and outpace the mediocre many. Woo. Sharon, I see your hand up. Did you have something that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. One of the things I did recently, we had 5 BAs on our team. And so you kind of just get in this rhythm of having these huddles in the morning and everybody just doesn't say a word. And you just kind of like, everybody checks in and all that stuff. And that particular day, I told them, okay, we're all going to Slack an answer, but I have to have you think about this. And I'm like, okay, what is the one thing you need to get more clarity on and more training on? Don't put it in there yet, just think about it. And then I had everybody just do it all at the same time. And all of a sudden they perked in and they're like, oh, we're engaged now. And so they all put in one thing they wanted to grow in greater in their role. Mm-hmm. And then I asked them the next question is like, what other thing have you seen others on our team do that you'd love to learn about? How can we encourage you to try to stretch your skills? And then they put their stuff in, and that became their growth plan then for the quarter. But up until then, we just kind of assumed that what they're doing is what they love without assuming that they are willing to take on more and could take on more, and giving them the tools in which they could do that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely important to get purposeful with your time. You know, you're doing less with more. You need to get purposeful with those meetings. Why are you meeting? What's the goal of it? And, you know, to get results out of that. What are some ways you all are getting the most bang for your buck right now when it comes to talent? I know in here it mentioned, are you combining part-time positions? Are you cutting hours? Are you turning to bonus-based structures? Is anyone starting to dial that back yet?
We're doing
Mackenzie, you
realignment.
referenced that, didn't you? Above. I don't know if you can talk or not.
We're new. I mean, we just launched a couple of months ago. And so instead of hiring to all these positions I've built out on our org chart that I need the support, I need the help. I've been looking for software options, and I've also been looking for like just ways that I can leverage with computer software versus human talent to try to do that, because where I need to hire 4 people, can I hire 1 and add in 2 software and still get the same result? So I'm still playing with it to make sure we're doing the right thing. But I am trying to see what I can replace humans with, unfortunately, right now, just to keep us going and give us a little bit more time.
You know what? That's a great point, because that leads me right into the next thing. So are we utilizing our systems? Do we need to hire more people, or can our systems do more? Have we pushed them all the way to the brink? So my question to you is, when's the last time you evaluated your systems? And how often should we be doing that?
I have a time block every Thursday afternoon where I go in and stop everything, put headphones on, and go through our systems. I take the whole week, I make notes. I don't touch anything. I just make notes all week. And then Thursday from 3 to 5, I'm hitting systems.
That's awesome. Is anyone else doing it weekly? Because that's pretty frequent, but I'm sure your systems are 100% all the time.
I actually have a question. When you're reevaluating your systems, just if you can briefly talk about that, what are you finding like recently, like yesterday, for example, what did you find that, you noticed needed to be changed?
So we have things like an auto email we'll send out that doesn't CC the agent, or it doesn't CC another member of the team. So I'll go back through, we use Brivity. So I'll go back through the auto plans, or we just hired like a front desk manager kind of person who is taking on more roles. And so I went through and reassigned some like writing letters and things like that to her, and pulling other people off task. So there's weekly things that change, especially when we're expanding teams or readjusting roles, as we've been talking about, in the book of finding, who's good at what role. Every week you think, oh, wait, this person might be better at this role. So I go through and audit all that.
We also audit the database leads and any market report to do the heavy lifting to keep from hiring ISA. Well, right now we're not.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, another thing is just auditing your automations. Are there tasks in your plans that are being done manually now that could be zapped, or, you know, other automations, auto emails instead of templated emails and things like that?
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
I love automation. If you ever need help with automation, let me know. I try to leverage off as much as I can to automation. I'm a huge fan of that. So if you ever need help, let me know. And then that was also leading into my next thing that Brooke put in there. The systems are sexy virtual class. That's how to build a system. And in the book, you know, it's talking about your procedures must be lean, mean, and purposeful. And taking that class will teach you how to build a system with a goal in mind, future focused, so that it works for your business long term and you're not building systems in a vacuum. You definitely do not want to do that. Sharon loves automation too. Man, where would I be without it? I honestly have no idea. All right, we have 2 minutes left. Does anyone want to share? There's so much in tactic 3. I have a bazillion things. Expecting results or resignations when you're making these moves, inspecting what you expect. That's something that I have not been the best on, and that was a really good refresher. Creating an environment of open communication and feedback. A reminder that we are leading through the change. So let's have that leader cap on. And then
on that tack, I wanted to add, Sam, on page 44, it talks about once the employee is gone, there is no place for any further discussion about the circumstances. The respect you show those who are no longer with you builds respect with those who are. I'm seeing that happening across the country with lots of agents, especially leaving teams, and teams getting caught up in the drama of talking about the agents who aren't on the team and what are they saying about us and all of that. This is the time to be a leader and let all of that go and keep moving forward. That's just a distraction. And the way you handle it will build the strength of the team who's still with you. So I thought that was really, really important.
And you always want to foster a team that supports the people on the team no matter what they want to do. If they want to leave the team, then help them leave. You know, you want to keep those relationships lifelong. And sometimes you just aren't a good match. And like Christy said, they leave and you move on and your business keeps on trucking. So it is 12:30 already. Wow, we really hit that really fast this time. So if you need anything after this, of course, we'll recap on the next call. We're covering 3 tactics next time. So we'll need to be really purposeful with what we do in that call and how we get through that. So thank you so much for joining me, Christy.
You guys, when you come next call, come prepared with your ahas kind of already maybe bullet pointed, so that as we ask the questions, you can drop them in so everyone gets as much value from, we can have the chat going and the talk. I know we're not supposed to multitask, but you know.
Yeah.
There you go.
If you want to hear less of me talking, bring your ahas.
There you go. Sam, thanks for leading. You guys, I dropped the link for group coaching in there. I got a couple of messages asking me about our group coaching program. So the information's in there. And when's our next call?
2 Fridays from now, I believe.
Whenever that is. July something.
Yes. And it's all about lead gen.
Awesome. Right. Thank you guys all for being here and for being committed and doing the homework and participating. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.